Welcome, I'm Thomas Porteous and you're watching NewsX World. After attacking Iran's nuclear sites, US President Donald Trump has addressed the nation. Let's take a listen in to his full address.
Thank you very much. A short time ago, the US military carried out massive precision strikes on the three key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say, we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
That was President Donald Trump's statement to the nation earlier today. As we just heard, US President Donald Trump defended his massive strikes on Iranian nuclear sites, calling them a spectacular success and insisting they were necessary to stop a nuclear threat. He was speaking from the White House, where he said the goal was to destroy Iran's enrichment capacity and prevent what he called the, quote, world's #1 state sponsor of terror from going nuclear. The US used 6 B-2 bombers to drop 12 bunker buster bombs on Fordow, while Navy submarines fired cruise missiles at the 2 other facilities, Natanz and Esfahan. Trump warned Iran against retaliation, promising an even stronger response if they strike back. Reaction has been swift. The UN Secretary General has called the strikes a dangerous escalation and urged all parties to de-escalate. Meanwhile, Iran-backed Houthi rebels have threatened to target US naval assets. Tensions now stand at a boiling point, with the region and the world on edge. We're now joined by Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, who's a former diplomat located in Washington, D.C., USA. Thank you very much, Ambassador Kapoor, for joining us on the program. I just want to get your immediate reaction to these strikes when you saw the news this morning. What was your reaction? Was it worry? Was it prowess? Was it relief? What are your thoughts on these precision but possibly escalatory strikes on Iran by the United States?
Thank you, Tom. I think it is another significant development in the evolving scenario between Israel and Iran and US and the Middle East and Western Europe and Russia and China. So in a way, from the Indian perspective, what I can say is that it was necessary to take out these enrichment facilities because it would have posed a very significant existential threat to Israel. Israel is a country, which has had a lot of difficulties in terms of its, threat perception and the threats that it faces from the countries in the neighborhood and from countries like Iran, which have made it a manifest declaration that once they have the nuclear bomb, for example, they'll wipe Israel off the face of the earth and they'll kill Jews. And it is in the Hamas charter also. So for a country like that, it is definitely an existential threat, but for the world also. Another Islamic country getting a bomb after Pakistan would have been even more of a threat, because while Pakistan is the epicenter of terrorism for the world, the other epicenter of terrorism has been Iran, in the sense that it is more focused on the US and on some of the Western countries and Israel. So that, if you see the impact of Iran's support for terrorism, whether it is the Hezbollah in Lebanon, or we see the Houthis in Yemen, or we see the Syrian terrorists, or the Iraqi militia. So in so many countries, it has been supporting very actively from Hamas onwards all the terrorists in the different countries and regions and provinces. So for a lot of countries, and for it to be, kidnapping or whatever, attacking the US embassy in Tehran and keeping hostage all the diplomats was also a very great sacrilege. So I think those sort of things are not forgotten easily in the history of nations. And for many countries, they will heave a sigh of relief. Other countries will be, more pensive and stressful, in the sense as to how the situation is going to evolve from here on, to see what sort of retaliation happens. Because if a country like Iran has the solid backing of countries like China, for example, and further North Korea supporting China in that axis, and then you have Russia separately supporting Iran, because Iran has been supporting the Russian effort in Ukraine, and then you have Pakistan, which would have tilted towards Iran, but with the Pakistani, I can hardly call him Chief of Army Staff because of the language he uses, is so rabid. He's currently in USA on a 5-day visit and being entertained as if he's a very great statesman or leader, which none of the above is true, and he's just a very, very, very Islamic jihadist bent of mind. And then there is Turkey. So there are all these countries which were trying to support Iran. On the other hand, Israel had the support of Western Europe in its defensive posture, and of USA. For USA to have taken this step is a very significant step, because in the normal course of things, Congress permission or oversight would have been necessary. But President Trump realized that if he is going to delay by 2 weeks as he was originally planning, the situation may reach a point where the B-2 bombers may not be able to fly safely over Iran, because if your support structure consists of a further, inflow of weaponry and technology and satellite mapping and satellite data information from China, for example, it would have become more and more difficult. And Russia also supplying some of the weapons
Yes.
and drones to Iran. So I think it was timely from the Western perspective. From the Indian perspective, Iran has never supported India in the international forum, in UN or in the OIC. So India is not going to be supporting Iran in any way. But Israel has been very vocal and very profound in its support for India and whatever problems we have been facing with the Pakistanis and the Pakistani terrorists. So I think for India to continue to, indirectly support Israel will be very important because Israel needs that sort of support at this juncture. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Ambassador Kapoor, please stay with us. We're also joined by Eric Wahberg, who's a political analyst located in Toronto. Eric, thank you very much for joining us on the programme. I also want to get your immediate... Okay. Pradeep, we're coming back to you. I think we had some technical issues there. Ambassador Kapoor, Donald Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu has called for regime change in Iran. Donald Trump has vetoed this previously. However, he said that he does know where the supreme leader of Iran is hiding. He says he doesn't want him dead for now, but hasn't ruled it out later. Now, Donald Trump has destroyed Iran's nuclear facilities. Do you think he's happy with where the status is in this war, or do you think he will take it further? He will pursue Israel's aims in toppling the Iranian regime, which some United States senators and political heavyweights are in fact doing.
I think that is not going to be easy for Donald Trump or Netanyahu, because this is for the Iranian people to take a call. They have to make sure that Iran does not pose a threat to the existence of Israel. Iran does not pose a threat to the US. Iran does not pose a threat to the other countries of the world through its support for terrorist actors in so many different countries and regions. So that capacity has to be destroyed. Thereafter, it is for the Iranian people to decide whether they want to continue with the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, or they want to depose him and have somebody more sensible who would be able to take them on a rational path. Because if you see Iran, and if you see the images of Iran before the Shah Reza Pahlavi was deposed, now that the very significant nuclear capacities of Iran have been destroyed, including in Fordow, which we just saw, including in Natanz, Isfahan, and the other areas which Israel struck earlier. So it is at this point for the Iranian people to see whether they want to go back to the moderate form of religion and the moderate form of practice, which they used to have, maybe 50 years back, 70 years back, and then have more education, more technology, more science, more development, rather than focus more on nuclear bombs or terrorism. So I think it's a choice which the people of Iran have to make and which they will make on their own. But if you try to interfere in that process and you mess it up, which you have done in the past in so many countries, because every time America has gone and done that in some countries, it has resulted in a lot of mess and a lot of difficulties for the US in the longer term. So to, put your hands into a situation where you cannot control it beyond a point is not worth your time or effort. So I think they have to refrain from this completely and let it be totally a decision of the people of Iran. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Ambassador Kapoor, for joining us on the programme. We're now joined by Eric Wahberg, who's a political analyst, and he's located